Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, it's great to be with you. Thank you, Oklahoma. Now, be honest. Hold on. Be honest. He mentioned the gentleman from Texas. Did you boo the gentleman from Texas, or did you just boo because he said Texas? Huh? Both? Is that what you're saying? Both? Come on. This rivalry is intense, man. Such a great turnout. It really lifts our spirits. We're excited about you to get other people to vote for me, because we really need your help. Okay? Now, Jim talked a moment ago, and I'm always grateful to him. Back in 2009, I was a private citizen, and there was an opening for the U.S. Senate in Florida. And the Republican Party came forward and said, we've got the perfect candidate. He's the sitting governor of Florida. He's a Republican. He's at 70% approval in the ratings, and his name was Charlie Crist. Okay? And I said, well, I know him. I was the Speaker of the House his first 2 years as governor. He's not a conservative. He's not even really, truly a Republican. He said, hold on, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. These guys are taking away my punchlines. Okay? I said, I know this guy. I've worked with him. He's not a conservative. He's conning everybody. Okay? I'm going to run against him. And I was a huge underdog. I mean, I was 50 points down in the polls. He was out raising me 50-1, the entire establishment. At the beginning, the only people that thought I could win all lived in my house. Okay? And 4 of them were under the age of 10. So it's not a good sign. But Jim Inhofe believed in me. He was one of the first people to endorse me out of all the people in the Senate, and for that, I will always be grateful. Thank you, Jim. Okay, so we were a huge underdog in that race. We came back and we won. In fact, I was proven right before the race was even over, because I took on Charlie Crist, and even before the primary began, he switched to independent. We beat him as an independent. 2 years or 4 years later, he came back and became a Democrat, running as a Democrat, and he lost. Now, so he's been a Republican, an independent, a Democrat, and now I heard he's become a vegetarian. So it's a, right. So I ran then because I believe that ours is the party of Reagan and the conservative movement is the way forward for America, and I was not going to let a con man take over and be our senator. Now, fast forward 5 years. I'm an underdog right now. I've always been an underdog. Always, my whole life, because my parents didn't make a lot of money. I didn't inherit $200 million. I didn't start out with a small loan of $1 million from my dad. In fact, the only loan I ever started out with was a student loan, which I just paid off like 4 years ago. I've never met her, but I paid Sally Mae a lot of money. I've always been an underdog, because America's a country of underdogs, of people that come from challenging circumstances that work hard to get ahead. This is a state founded by underdogs, and many of you have faced challenges in your life. I wasn't supposed to be in this election. The entire Republican establishment told me, stay out. It's not your turn. You need to wait in line. I didn't know there was a line. And this is no time for waiting, because after 8 years of Barack Obama, if we get this election wrong, it's going to be too late. So I decided to run for president. I decided to run for president because I do not want the Reagan Revolution to end. Because 36 years ago, Ronald Reagan defined what it meant to be a conservative for my generation and for yours. And America's been better for it. And this election is about defining what does it mean to be a conservative in the 21st century. Because ultimately, we have to decide, what is America going to be in the 21st century? That's why I feel so passionately about this race. Now, last night we had a debate. Right? And let's be frank, okay? Donald Trump has been winning some of these primaries. If you watch the media, he's some unstoppable force of nature. Who's going to stop him? Well, let me tell you something. I will never quit. I will never stop until we keep a con man from taking over the party of Reagan and the conservative movement. He's a con man. He's a con man. He's a con man. I'll tell you why. Number one, look, people are angry and frustrated and scared about the future. Okay? People are working harder than they've ever worked in their lives, and they're running in place. And he swoops in and is taking advantage of that. He's taking advantage of that. He's telling people, I'm going to fight for the little guy. I'm fighting for the working class. Here's what he doesn't tell them. He has spent a career in business, 50 years, sticking it to the little guy. Sticking it to the little guy. When his companies went bankrupt, the first people that didn't get paid were the subcontractors, the plumbers and the pipe fitters and the people that laid bricks and all of those people that worked for a living. They didn't get paid. He got his money. They didn't get theirs. He's going around telling people, oh, I'm fighting to keep other countries from taking our jobs. What is he talking about? You ever bought a Trump tie? If you buy a Trump tie, you're not just getting a tacky tie. You're buying a tie made in China or in Mexico. He portrays himself as the strongest guy on illegal immigration. That's fine, but Trump Tower was built by illegal immigrants from Poland, who he paid $4 an hour, 12 hours a day. Okay, a judge found that he was involved in a conspiracy to defraud these workers of their pay. Even now in Florida, he has a hotel or something down there. And 300 Americans have applied for jobs at that hotel. All of them got turned down. Instead, he brings workers from other countries. He acts like he's some sort of tough guy. He's not a tough guy. This is the first guy that asked for Secret Service protection. First guy. The other day, he told the protester, I wish I could punch you in the face. Donald Trump has never punched anyone in the face, okay? This guy was born into money, raised into money, inherited $200 million. He's never punched anyone in the face. He's not a tough guy. Now, I had to point all that out yesterday. He has no ideas about anything. They ask him about health care. He has no health care plan. His health care plan has something to do with some lines around states. And by the way, he kept repeating it like over and over again, right? And then this guy he thinks the Nuclear Triad is some punk rock band from Europe. So, and we're going to entrust him with the nuclear codes of the United States of America? We're going to give this erratic guy the ability to send a 21-year-old American into combat? Right, that's what I'm saying too, no. So I took him on last night, and how does Donald respond? The way he always responds, on Twitter. Tough guy, right? Tough guy on Twitter. Do you guys want to have some fun? All right. Let's read some tweets. Now, I have a Samsung because I can't remember my password. Only the FBI could help me get into an Apple, so. All right, here we go. He began early this morning at 6:46 a.m. Okay, that's pretty early. Lightweight Marco Rubio was working hard last night. The working hard part is true. The problem is, he's a choker, and once a choker, always a chalker. He misspelled it, chalker. Mr. Meltdown. Let me tell you about Mr. Meltdown. You want some behind-the-scenes stuff? We had 2 commercial breaks in the middle of all this combat, on the stage. He looked like he was in panic mode in the back. First, he took out like this little makeup compact. I caught him. He's like, right here. Because he had like a sweat mustache. And then he asked for a full-length mirror. Why do you need a full-length mirror? The podium goes up to here. So I said earlier, well, maybe he was worried that his pants were wet or something. I don't know. So he wanted to see. Then I saw him in the corner huddled with somebody, and his arms were going up and down, and someone was like, calm down, calm. I said, all right, not a good night. Not a good night for Donald Trump. He was melting down, all right? Then, all right, at 7:48 a.m., so I guess he took a shower, whatever he did, and then he went over, he said, wow, every poll said that I won the debate last night. Great honer. I think he meant honor, but he spelled it honer, H-O-N-E-R. All right. Then at 8:56 a.m., lightweight chalker. I think he meant to spell lightweight, but it says lightweight chalker. Marco Rubio looks like a little boy on stage, not presidential material. It's not that I'm a little boy, because I wouldn't even be the youngest person ever president. He would be the oldest person ever president, which is a problem because you could serve like 8 years. It gets, you start to worry a little bit, all right? So I looked at these tweets. How can this guy get this so wrong? These misspells. I mean, either, because some of these letters aren't even next to each other on the keyboard on your phone. And I concluded one of two things. Either that's how they spell choker at the Wharton School of Business, or he must have hired foreign workers to hire his Twitter handle. So we are not going to lose the party of Reagan, and we are not going to lose the conservative movement to a con man. We are not going to let that happen. And the reason why is because this election is too important. In this election is a referendum, and you have to decide what kind of country will America be in the 21st century. Now, we know what kind of country it's been up to now. It's been special, unique in all the world, okay? In most countries in the world, you can only be what your parents were before you. That's the only thing you're allowed to be, not in America. Here we believe everyone has the right to go as far as their talent and their work will take them. But that was not an accident. You know why that happened? Because the people who came before us did what needed to be done. They embraced the principles that made America special. They embraced limited government. They embraced and followed the Constitution. They embraced free enterprise. They embraced a strong national defense. And so for over 200 years, each generation has left the next better off. Now the time has come for us to do that. Now that's not what's going to happen if Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders wins this election. So we can't lose this election. We will lose this election if Donald Trump is the nominee. Now watch what the press is doing. The press is treating him with kid gloves. You saw some of these press reports in the morning. It's like, oh, whoa, this Donald Trump, man, what's he going to do to Marco Rubio today? He's so unstoppable. They don't touch any of the stuff he's about. On the other hand, they have written articles about how when I was 18 years old, okay, I got a citation from the cops for drinking beer in a park after hours. You can't be president if you haven't drank beer in the park after hours, okay? At least not in some states in the country, anyway. But the point is that this is the level of investigation. They haven't even touched him. You know why? Because they can't wait. They're waiting for him to be the nominee. Then they'll tear him apart. Then they'll tear him apart and they'll coronate Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders or whoever it is that wins their nomination. And that would be a disaster. Bernie Sanders is a socialist. Okay? By the way, in most politics, when you call somebody a socialist, they deny it. He says it in his commercials. So I'm not saying anything he wouldn't say. He's a nice guy, but he's a socialist. Hillary Clinton is under FBI investigation. That usually means you don't get to run for president, but if you're a Democrat, I guess that's okay. But this is more serious. She's disqualified from being commander-in-chief. Because Hillary Clinton, on September 11th of 2012, 4 Americans died in Benghazi as a result of a terrorist attack, and she knew that. She knew that. But she told their families that it was because of a movie. She lied to them. Anyone who lies to the families of those who have lost their lives in the service of our country can never be the commander-in-chief of the United States. Disqualified. So, we cannot lose this election. And if you give me your vote and you nominate me, we will not lose this election. We won't lose it because, number one, we'll unify this party. We'll bring it together. We don't have to agree on everything. We can have differences on some issues, but we are going to unify this party. We cannot win if we're fighting against each other. I am the only one left in this race that can bring us together as a party. But we can't just unify. We also have to grow, which means we have to take our message of conservatism to people that don't vote for us now. And I can and I will. I'll take our message to people that live today the way I grew up. I grew up paycheck to paycheck. I've lived paycheck to paycheck. People asked me recently, how do you define paycheck to paycheck? I said, paycheck to paycheck is when you write a check on Wednesday, but you know the money doesn't get there till Friday, so you date it Saturday. I'm not saying I ever did that. I'm just saying I know what it is. We're going to take our message to people that are living paycheck to paycheck. And we're going to say to them, I lived the way you live now. I grew up and faced the things you're facing now. And I'm a conservative, and you should be too, because that's the right way forward for me, for you, and for the United States of America. We are going to take our message to young Americans, some of whom are living with student loan debt. By the way, if you took out a student loan to go to Trump University, the only thing you got was a piece of paper and a picture with a cardboard cutout of Donald Trump. So my apologies if you went to that university. And their football team is no good either. And so there are millions of Americans today. We had a 500% increase in student loan debt in this country. I'm the only Republican that talks about it all the time because for me it's personal, because I had to face it. And I have a plan to deal with this issue. We're going to take our message to families raising their children the way Jeanette and I are raising ours now, because it's become harder than ever to raise your kids with the values they teach in our church instead of the values that they try to ram down our throat in popular culture. We are going to... We will unite this party and we will grow it, and if we do that, we will win. And that's why the Democrats don't want to run against me. Jim is right. In poll after poll, I beat Hillary Clinton, and the Democrats know that. They attack me more than any other Republican in this race because they don't want to run against me. Hillary Clinton does not want to run against me, but I cannot wait to run against Hillary Clinton. We'll win. We'll win this election, and then we'll get to work. Now, what kind of president will you have? When I am president of the United States, number one, you're going to have a president for the first time in 8 years that, follows the Constitution of the United States of America. That means a Constitution that says you have a First Amendment right to live out the teachings of your faith in every aspect of your life. A Constitution that says you have a Second Amendment right to protect yourself and your family. A 10th Amendment that says that the power of government should largely reside in the states and in the local communities. If it's unconstitutional, I will be against it. And that's why when I become president of the United States, on my first day in office, I will repeal every single one of Barack Obama's unconstitutional executive orders. By the way, there's an opening in the Supreme Court now. And we shouldn't do anything on that opening until after this election. You have a right to weigh in on it. But you know what kind of justices we're going to appoint? People like Antonin Scalia, God rest his soul, that understand that the Constitution is supposed to be applied according to its original meaning. It is not a living and breathing document that means whatever you want it to mean. Because if it means whatever you want it to mean, it means nothing at all. We are going to have judges that apply the Constitution according to its original meaning. By the way, if you want to change the Constitution, there's a process for that. It's called Article 5. And Article 5 says that you, the citizens, can call a convention of states. In fact, your former Senator Tom Coburn is leading that effort. And it's not an effort that it won't do anything with the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, all those things stay in place. The only thing he's seeking, and I support, is term limits on Congress, term limits on judges, and a balanced budget amendment for America. Now, number two, when I'm president of the United States, you're going to have a president that believes in free enterprise. I always laugh when I hear political figures say, oh, when I was mayor, we created 100,000 jobs. And I say, really, you hired 100,000 government workers? Because unless you hired 100,000 government workers, you didn't create 100,000 jobs, the private sector did. And I can say that to you because my parents had a job as a bartender and a maid because the private sector created their jobs. Someone who had access to money risked that money to open up a hotel and hired them. That's how they were able to buy a home and raise a family and retire with dignity and give us a better life. We are going to make America the best place in the world to start a business or expand an existing business when I'm president of the United States. We don't have time here today to go through all the details, but go on my website. You will see that I have the best plan out there to bring our tax code into a globally competitive one. We have the best plan out there to roll back all of these crazy regulations that Jim Inhofe fights against all the time. We're getting rid of all these crazy regulations. We have the best plan out there to save Social Security and Medicare. My mom is on Social Security and Medicare, but also bring our debt under control. We have the best plan out there to allow us to fully utilize our energy resources. God has blessed America with oil and natural gas. When I'm president, we are going to use it. And I'm the only one running for president that's ever done anything against Obamacare. And that wasn't a long speech. It was actually something we did. And here's what we did. They created a bailout fund. When Obamacare passed, the insurance companies got them to create a bailout fund. They were going to bail out insurance companies that lost money with your taxpayer money. I led the effort, and we got rid of the bailout fund. And when I'm president, we will get rid of the rest of Obamacare and put you back in charge. The federal government is involved in all kinds of things it's not supposed to be involved in. Here's the one thing it does have to be involved in: national security, okay? And it's not doing a good job right now because we have a very weak commander-in-chief, okay? And so, and let's look at the world today, by the way. 8 years of Barack Obama, the world has gone more dangerous. There is a lunatic in North Korea with nuclear weapons. The Chinese are taking over the South China Sea. Vladimir Putin is sowing instability in Europe and in the Middle East. Iran is going to get $100 billion of sanctions relief. And radical Islamic jihadists are spreading all over the world, especially ISIS. In the face of all these growing threats, we're gutting our military. We are gutting our military, okay? Our Army will soon be the smallest it has been since the end of World War II. The Navy will soon be at its smallest size in 100 years. And the Air Force will soon be smaller than it has ever been. So the world is getting more dangerous, and we're gutting our military. And by the way, how unfair is that to our men and women in uniform? Because we're still putting them in harm's way, but now we're putting them in harm's way with older weapons and less people alongside them. And by the way, with rules of engagement that don't even allow them to win. That's going to change. When I'm president of the United States, we are going to undertake a Reagan-style rebuilding of the U.S. military. When I'm president of the United States, we're going to have a real war on terror. Not a fake one like the one we have now, a real one. The best intelligence agencies in the world are going to find the terrorists. The best military in the world is going to destroy them. And if we capture any of these terrorists alive, they're not going to have the right to remain silent. They're not going to get a court hearing in Manhattan. They're not coming somewhere in Oklahoma. They are going to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. When I'm president of the United States, we're going to have a foreign policy of moral clarity, which means our allies will know they can count on us. For example, in all of the Middle East, there is only one nation that is pro-American, a free enterprise economy, and a democracy. Israel. That's right. Maybe Donald Trump is confused and he wants to be impartial, but I am not. If push comes to shove, I know whose side I'm going to be on. I am going to be on Israel's side every single time. Every single time. And that is going to begin on my first day in office. Because as soon as I walk into the Oval Office, I will cancel Barack Obama's deal with the Ayatollah of Iran. When I'm president, we are going to take care of our veterans again. If you are a veteran, would you lift your hand so we can thank you for your service to our country? God bless you. God bless you. Well, my brother's a veteran. I have a brother that's 21 years older than I am. My parents had him in their, I guess, late teens, early 20s. People got married very young back then. And I was born 21 years later. which means my parents were incredibly optimistic people. In 1968, my brother joined the Army. He became a Green Beret in the 7th Special Forces. He served from 68 to 71. When he was in the Army as a Green Beret, one day in a training mission, he jumped out of an airplane, he landed wrong, knocked out his teeth. And so every 5 to 10 years, he has to go fill a dental claim at the VA. And it's always a hassle. It's always the same thing. Oh, how do we know this happened in the military? He says, well, it's the only time I jumped out of a plane. And a quarter of the calls to my office, I bet you Jim would say the same. A significant number of the calls that we get in our Senate offices are a veteran having to fight with a VA. We act like we're doing them a favor. They did us the favor. They took care of us. We now have to take care of them, and we're not doing that. And look, there are really good people at the VA. There are good VA hospitals. We thank the people at the VA. A lot of them are veterans. And then there are people at the VA that are not doing a good job. Last week in USA Today, there was a headline. It said, calls to the VA suicide hotline went to voicemail. How can someone not get fired over that? When I'm president, if you're not doing a good job at the VA, we are going to fire you. You will be fired. And when I'm president of the United States of America, our veterans will be able to take their VA benefits to any hospital or any doctor that you want to go see. There's a lot of work to be done. I can go on for an hour talking about these different things because the damage is so extensive. What Barack Obama's done to this country is deep and deliberate, by the way. He wanted to change America. He wanted us to be more like the rest of the world. That's how you get a president that guts our military. That's how you get a president that apologizes for America. That's how you get a message. Yeah, I'm going to keep repeating that. Absolutely I am, because it's the truth. These things were not, let me ask you a question. Was Obamacare an accident or on purpose? Right? Is all what they're trying to do now with our school system taking over from the federal government, is that deliberate or was it an accident? These things are all happening on purpose by design. They want to make America more like the rest of the world. If you want to be like another country, move to another country. We want to be America. The damage he's done is real. And we are running out of time to fix it, but we can. But it has to start now, in 2016. 2016 is a choice. A generational choice. What does that mean? Here's what it means. It means for over 2 centuries, each generation before us was willing to do whatever it took to make America special. Now the time has come for us to do the same. We all know this in our own lives. I know it in mine. You know, I'm very passionate about this race. I know, as I said, that today we are an underdog. I embrace that role. Because as I said in the very beginning of this speech, I've always been an underdog. My parents weren't even born in America. They were born on the island of Cuba to poor families. You know that my father stopped going to school when he was 9 years old because his mother died. If he wanted to eat, he literally had to go work at 9 years of age, and he would work for the next 70 years of his life. My parents came here together in 1956. They didn't have anything. They had barely an education. They spoke little English. The first words my father learned in English were, "I'm looking for a job." They struggled. Their first years here were very, very difficult. They were discouraged. They wondered if they had made a mistake. They even thought at one time, maybe we should go back to Cuba. You can't imagine how grateful I am they did not. I may have never even been born had they gone back to Cuba. But they stuck it out, and the American miracle changed their lives. You know that less than 10 years after my parents got here with nothing, my father was then working as a bartender on Miami Beach, not a luxury job, not a high-paying job, but he had a job on Miami Beach as a bartender. And less than 10 years after they came here, my parents bought a home in a safe and stable neighborhood. They worked for many years. They never became rich. They never became famous. I didn't inherit any money. But my parents were successful people because all those years of work allowed them to retire with dignity and with security. It allowed them to raise their family. I always tell people, we never had everything we wanted, but we had everything we needed. And I did come from privilege. Not financial privilege or political privilege. I came with the privilege of being raised by 2 parents, a mother and a father, who loved each other and loved their children and were married and lived in a home. And let me tell you, living in a home with a mother and a father who love you is an incredible privilege and an advantage. And I thank God every day that I had it. And my parents were not rich or famous, but they were successful. You know why they were successful? Because they lived to see all 4 of their children have the chance to do all the things they never could. They lived to see all 4 of their kids have a life better than their own. Now, of course, they deserve credit for everything they did, but here's the truth. People all over the world are trying to do that. But in America, millions of people have been able to achieve it because we are a special country. And that story I just told you, isn't just my story. It's our story. I don't know the personal story of most people here. The vast majority of you I've never met in person. I don't know anything about your background, but I know this, you're Americans. And if you are an American, then you are literally just a generation or 2 removed from a story not unlike mine. Whether they came from another country or not is irrelevant. We are all a generation or 2 removed from someone who made your future the purpose of their lives. And you know this. You know what your grandparents did for your parents. Or maybe you remember what your dad did for you, the 2 jobs that he worked, the sacrifices and the things your mother gave up. Or maybe it's you doing that for your children now. My friends, this is who we are. This is what makes us different from the rest of the world. Every country in the world has rich people. And we celebrate financial success in America. We don't demonize it. But what makes us different are the millions of people that will never be rich or famous. When you become a firefighter, when you become a police officer, and by the way, I thank God for them every night and everything they do for us. When you become a firefighter or a police officer or a nurse or a teacher, you know you're not going to get rich doing those jobs. But you want to get paid. Amen, right? You do it because you love what you do, and all you want is to make enough money to own a home and retire with dignity and leave your children better off than yourself. And that's what we're on the verge of losing. That American dream that defines us as a people is slipping away, and it will go away if we elect the wrong person in 2016. But if we elect the right person, then we have a chance to expand that to reach more people than ever. And so that's why today I am asking you to vote for me. And I'm not just asking you to vote for me, I'm asking you to go out and find other people to vote for me. And I know that there are people out there that perhaps are intrigued by one of the other candidates. Maybe they like their style or their whatever they're doing. Let me tell you something. Friends, do not let friends vote for a con artist. I'm asking you to help me by going out and finding people that will support me, because if you elect me president of the United States, number one, you're going to have a president that does not divide us against each other. After 8 years of a president that's constantly pitting us against each other, you will have a president that will never ask you to hate another group of Americans so that I can win an election. You will have a president that is deeply committed to his conservative principles, but a president that will be a president for all Americans, even the people that don't like me, even the people that disagree with me, even the people that say nasty things about me on Twitter. I am going to cut their taxes too. Because after 8 years of Barack Obama, what we need is a president that loves all of the American people, even the American people that don't love you back. I will be a president for all Americans, and I will be a president that confronts our challenges, not hides from them. When I am president of the United States, we are going to re-embrace the principles that made us great, but we are going to apply them to the unique challenges of the 21st century. Now the time has come for those of us who grew up in the era of Reagan, for those of us who are the children of that Reagan revolution that shaped our view of the world and of this country. Now the time has come for us to rise up and take our place in the amazing story of America. Now the time has come for us to do for America what our parents did for us. And we will when I am president. We will confront our challenges. We will embrace our opportunities. And I know that things seem difficult. I know that the news seems to always be bad. I know that you are afraid sometimes to go to the mailbox because every time you open it, there's something in there you didn't plan to pay for. I know how tough things are. But I want you to believe that things have a chance to turn around, that we have a chance to make America better than it has ever been, and we will. This is what history will say of us. This is what history will say of this generation if in this election we do what needs to be done. It will say that we lived in the early years of this new century in a very difficult and rapidly changing time. And it will say that after 8 years of Barack Obama, we came very close to getting it wrong. But then in 2016, we remembered who we were. In 2016, we remembered what America was. And we confronted our challenges. And we embraced our opportunities. And we didn't just save the American dream. This was the generation that expanded it so that it reached more people and changed more lives than ever before. And it will say, that this is the generation that left their children as the freest and most prosperous Americans that ever lived. And it will say that this is the generation that didn't just make the 21st century as good as the 20th century, it made it better. It made the 21st century a new American century. This is what it will say of us. You elect me president, and we will do what needs to be done, and we will leave for our children what Americans always leave their children: the single greatest nation in the history of all of mankind. Thank you, Oklahoma. God bless you. Thank you for having me here. Thank you.
And there must be something about your daughter. She said, I love you.